Her friends are still out searching for answers, keeping hope alive. On April 16th, her friends say she was abducted from her apartment. On April 17th, DPS discovered her burned body in a car on the side of the 10 in Tonopah.
Welcome back, and thanks for being here. The case I'm talking about today is one that hasn't gotten nearly enough attention to it. At this time, her case is unsolved, and police's investigation doesn't seem to be moving along very quickly. So now this woman's family is pushing to get justice for Mercedes. Mercedes Mariana Vega was born on March 10, 2001, to Erica Pillsbury in Anchorage, Alaska. Mercedes had 4 sisters and 1 brother. She also had a stepfather named Tom Pillsbury. It was a blended family, and Mercedes always considered Tom to be like a father to her. Mercedes was loved deeply by her friends and family, who described her as an incredibly driven, kind, and beautiful person. Mercedes was also said to be funny and a bit of a prankster. Mercedes also loved caring for babies, as she had a lot of love to give. She also really enjoyed going to the ocean and swimming. One of Mercedes' favorite things to do was go horseback riding, and she even had her own horse named Cash. Additionally, she played the violin and had a beautiful singing voice. She would sing the national anthem at many sports games and special events. Mercedes was also a straight-A student throughout her young school career. Mercedes worked as a dancer at a club part-time, but she was planning on quitting soon, as she had much bigger aspirations in life. She took her goals very seriously, according to her family, which included being a personal trainer and opening up her own gym. But sadly, none of this would end up happening. Early in the morning on April 17th, 2023, around 1 a.m., a 911 call was placed after a car was found burning on the shoulder of Interstate 10 in Tonopah, Arizona. A man had been driving down the interstate when he saw the Chevy Malibu on fire, and he believed he saw a dead body inside. This caller also told the 911 operator that he had seen a person standing outside of the vehicle.
CPS 911, where's your emergency?
I just want to report a car. It's on fire. It's off the side it's on the north side of the westbound lanes on I-10, about the 85.5 mile marker. He was like down in the bushes, but I saw a flame inside the vehicle.
You said there's people outside the vehicle?
I believe I saw at least one person outside, yes.
When the firefighters arrived on the scene, they extinguished the fire, and it revealed a dead human body in the back passenger seat. Authorities would identify the body as 22-year-old Mercedes Vega via her fingerprints. And the reason they had these on file was because Mercedes had a fingerprint clearance card, which is a work permit that requires you to submit your fingerprints and sometimes a background check as well. Since Mercedes danced, this was apparently required for her job. Gloves and bleach were found in front of the car, and lighter fluid was found in the back seat. And the odd thing was, the vehicle that she had been found in, a 2018 Chevrolet Malibu, was not hers. And when police ran the VIN number on the car, they discovered that it had a salvage title on it. Mercedes actually owned a white Dodge Charger, and it was found parked illegally near Culinary Dropout on Mill Avenue in Tempe, which is about 1.5 miles away from where Mercedes lived. Whoever had taken it had just left it running in an area where it was likely to either get stolen or towed. But neither one of those things ended up happening, and police were able to obtain it and bring it in to process it for evidence. There was also surveillance footage that was recovered from where the car had been found parked. It showed the vehicle arriving and then being left there. Though there's been no photos released yet of any suspects. Police, however, have said that they've executed search warrants on numerous accounts and devices, though they haven't said whose. Mercedes' mother, Erica, remembers when detectives showed up at her home on April 7, 2023, around 7 p.m., to tell her that her daughter Mercedes had died.
And I think I just kept repeating, "Is she okay? Is she okay? Is she okay?" And finally they said no. she's deceased.
When they were there, however, they didn't give her a lot of information at all. They didn't even tell her that Mercedes had been found burning inside a car. They did, however, ask her 3 questions before they left the home that night. What Mercedes' home address was, if she was right or left-handed, and if she had any reason to be in Tonopah, Arizona. After police left Erica's home, her husband Tom, Mercedes' stepfather, looked up Tonopah on his phone, and the first thing that he saw was young adult female found burned in the back of a car. And that's how both Erica and Tom found out how Mercedes had actually died. Then, just days after Mercedes' death, Erica received a phone call from the Tonopah Police Department asking her to move her vehicle because it was parked illegally. He was referring to Mercedes' car that was parked outside the Culinary Dropout. He said, "Ma'am, you're not allowed to park there." Her mother, Erica, thought it was some sort of sick joke, though. She had co-signed for Mercedes' car, so her name was on the title. And she said to him, "I thought my daughter was burned inside her own vehicle." The officer sounded shocked and asked her if the car was part of a homicide. Something he probably should have known himself. After that, Erica had called the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and she was finally told that Mercedes had suffered blunt force trauma, gunshot injuries, she had smoke inhalation, and had likely been alive when the car she had been found in was set on fire. And Mercedes' autopsy report wasn't released until 6 months after her death, and it was only then that Erica would learn even more horrifying details about how her daughter had died. She was told that they had found bleach down Mercedes' throat.
She was my baby. When someone comes to your door at night and tells you that your child is gone, just the word deceased, anything that, I miss her.
I miss her. I miss her a lot. I'm not going to get to see her get married. I'm not going to hold my grandchildren. And she was very determined. This is a young lady that wrote a PowerPoint presentation to go to Disney World at 7 years old. This is a person that wrote a PowerPoint presentation why she should get a tattoo.
She didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve what happened to her.
Everyone's lives standing here today have changed for the worse. What happened to Mercedes is completely bizarre and vicious. She endured the most evil pain. Her peace and abundance was ruthlessly stolen from her.
Shortly after she had been found dead, her parents, Erica and Tom, went back to the Aubrey apartments, where Mercedes had lived in Tempe, and they tried to retrace her steps. Erica said that she saw a bloody tennis shoe print, but she didn't think it belonged to her daughter because often Mercedes either wore heels or flip-flops. Then it was discovered that there was surveillance footage that showed Mercedes walking to her car in the apartment complex garage, and Erica and Tom's hearts would sink when they saw this footage. The footage is from April 16th, 2023, the day before Mercedes turned up dead. Around 9:15 p.m., you can see Mercedes walking to her car from the elevator. She was looking down at her phone at the time, and her mother believes that she was likely FaceTiming. And it was at that time that Erica noticed Mercedes was wearing tennis shoes. Then just minutes after she was seen on the security footage at her apartment complex, Mercedes disappeared. Her mother, Erica, said that she was not sure where her daughter was headed that night, but she gathered from text messages as well as Mercedes' friends that she was either going out with them for sushi or she was headed to Dave & Buster's. Police were saying, however, that they believed that while Mercedes originally planned on going out with friends that night, they think she may have actually canceled her personal plans to go into work instead. And her job was only about a mile away from her apartment. And ominously, Mercedes had said in a text message to a friend that night, "I just feel weird, like maybe I shouldn't go anywhere." Mercedes' family believes that there was more than one person involved in her murder. They also thought that once she got to the parking lot, she had been hit over the head, then forced into someone's car, where she was later shot and the car was set on fire. And then forensic testing would show that her parents were correct. She had been attacked inside the apartment complex garage that day. This came after police confirmed that blood found next to Mercedes' parking spot was a match to her. And based on the way that the car had been parked and where the blood spatters had been found, police believe that Mercedes was turned backwards opening her door when she was attacked from behind. The thing is, the apartment complex where Mercedes was living was a place where she and her parents both believed that she would be safe. The entire reason she had moved to the Aubrey apartments in the first place was because of an incident that had happened at her old apartment years prior. In the early morning hours of October 12, 2020, Mercedes was just getting home to her apartment near 16th Street and Thomas Road from her job at the Gentlemen's Club. As soon as she had pulled into the parking lot and then gotten out of her car, a man wearing a mask approached her. He then pointed a gun at her and demanded that she give him her phone, her keys, and a bag that she had money in. Fearing for her life, Mercedes complied. The suspect had then pushed her to the ground. After that, Mercedes had never gone back to that apartment. Her mother had actually gone and collected her belongings. She had then quickly found another apartment in Tempe where she believed she would be safer, but clearly was not. Just a month after Mercedes had been attacked, another dancer from the same club that she worked at was targeted as well. As this woman was getting home around 3:45 in the morning, she had been approached by a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt and gloves. He approached the woman, pulled out a gun, and pointed it at her, but he had run away after a passerby had stopped. Now, after Mercedes had been robbed, she started to notice some activity on her cash apps. Someone was trying to transfer money out of her account and into theirs. Police would then track down the person's account information and learned the suspect's vehicle information. This led them to Cujo Young. In December of 2020, after Mercedes had been attacked, she had identified Cujo in a lineup. He was subsequently charged with armed robbery, and he was also charged in the attempted robbery of the other dancer. And according to a police report, he had actually been seen inside the Gentlemen's Club where Mercedes and the other dancer worked after the robberies. There was also yet another dancer from the same club where Mercedes worked who had been robbed a year prior, though this one was never linked to Cujo, but police are now looking into it further. Cujo would be released on bond in December of 2021 while he awaited trial. He was, however, required to wear an ankle monitor. Mercedes was supposed to testify against Cujo for the armed robbery. On April 13, 2023, court records show that his attorney filed a disclosure notice saying that a man named George would be testifying, and he was the individual who had threatened Mr. Young to commit the armed robberies. 4 days later, Mercedes Vega had been found dead. Cujo had also been arrested in November of 2023 by Tempe police during a narcotics operation. He was accused of facilitating a large-scale drug transaction, which included around 40,000 pills containing fentanyl. And he is now being held without bail, awaiting his trial, which is scheduled to start in October of this year. So it sounds like police possibly have a suspect in Mercedes' case. Hopefully they are just working on putting everything together so they can get Mercedes and her family some justice.
We've accepted our daughter's gone. What we haven't accepted is what was happened to our daughter.
I want justice for Mercedes.
We won't rest until there's justice.
For months after Mercedes' death, Erica and Tom had kept quiet, as they didn't want to interfere with the investigation, hoping it would be solved within a few months. But when it still was unsolved by fall of 2023, and police didn't have much more information for them, they began to spread the word about Mercedes, creating a webpage and posting flyers. They also created a Facebook page called Justice for Mercedes Mariana Vega, where loved ones not only share memories of Mercedes, but also any information about the case. Mercedes' loved ones demand justice, and they have expressed their disappointment in the lack of progress made by investigators in the case. Since Mercedes' death, her family has also held multiple ceremonies honoring her. At a Tempe balloon release and candlelight ceremony on October 17, 2023, her mother spoke tearfully of her daughter who was taken from her, and said that someone needs to be held accountable for her murder. Erica did say that she found some peace in knowing that her daughter had stood up for herself in her last few moments of her life. She said, "I know she fought. She did. I mean, it's just, I know her. I know she fought." A march was then held on April 17, 2024, 1 year after Mercedes' death. The walk was organized by her mother and was intended not to just bring awareness to Mercedes' case, but to all the women of Arizona who have not received any justice and may have been overlooked, pushed aside, or forgotten. If you have any information in regards to Mercedes' murder, you can contact the Silent Witness line at 480-WITNESS or contact the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Both Silent Witness and her family are offering cash rewards. A GoFundMe page was also set up with information on how people can further help Mercedes' family. Mercedes' parents had her cremated, and they scattered her ashes in Hawaii, which was a place that she loved to visit. I definitely think that police know more in this case than they're leading on. It couldn't just be a coincidence that Cujo was going to trial for robbing Mercedes and then, just before, she turned up dead. Since Mercedes had identified him in a lineup, it meant that he was now facing charges for the other attempted robbery, in addition to the one that he had committed against Mercedes. In Arizona, he would be facing about 4 to 10 years on each count. So, is that enough to murder someone over? 8 to 20 years? For some, I think it would be. But whether it was him or someone else, more attention needs to be drawn to this case, because it doesn't seem like the investigation is going anywhere fast. And Mercedes' family deserves answers. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon. So check it out at patreon.com/awickedworld or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims never get forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a case you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email at awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.